Hello, everyone. This is a Local 100 Fightback Coalition Facebook live stream. My name is John Ferretti. I am a train conductor speaking as a rank and file member of this union. My opinions do not represent the opinions of Local 100. Just have to put out that disclaimer to make sure I save myself from any unnecessary nonsense from your petty union bureaucracy. So, in any case, as you know, a member of the executive board of Local 100, and there was recently a meeting at the executive board that had some developments that members should be aware of. I'll make sure to follow up on that shortly later on in this video. But I want to start with an F-line pick update. As you know, the F-line pick is scheduled to begin on Monday morning. In fact, I pick on Monday. I had to send in my picks by email today. And it is still the subject of an arbitration hearing. Okay, there's an arbitrator supposedly deciding on this case after both management and the union have presented evidence for their positions on the F-line pick on Thursday afternoon. And it could happen his or her decision can happen any day now. It could happen on Monday. It could happen a couple of days from now. So for those who are on the F-line, I want you to be aware that if you have a scheduled pick time, you should pick your job to minimize the impact of whatever disastrous consequences could happen if you did not pick extra. As you know, many of our members already are facing having their pick rights gutted and being forced to be extra for no other reason than management wanted to gut our pick rights, and our union did not mobilize any defense for over 10 months now with reassignments all over the subway system, not just on the C and the F lines where we're having line picks. So if you are scheduled to pick, please do so. On my page, on Local 100 Fightback Coalition page, on my Facebook page, I have call sheets. We have the work program available. Members should pick their jobs as if the pick is going to happen. It is no certainty that the pick will happen. In my opinion, I think despite the incompetence of your RTO-VP and the way in which he's handled this, the union does have a good case in this arbitration here. And the reason why they have a good case is because the C line pick that the union foolishly agreed to still does not set a precedent for this level of job cuts. The C line pick cut 8 jobs, cut 4 jobs on the AMs and 4 jobs on the PMs. That is not in any way comparable to 29 job cuts across both the AM and the PM tour that they're contemplating on the F. It's nowhere near the level of service cut that we're talking about here on the F line. Secondly, another argument they have is a safety argument. In the middle of COVID-19, it is insane to pile more customers onto less trains. It's unsafe for our crews who have to deal with more exposure to COVID-19. It's unsafe for the customers who also would be risking higher exposure to COVID-19. It's insane to be doing this at this particular time when schools are about to reopen for middle schools, and they're even contemplating reopening for high schools. Now, we can debate the safety of those decisions, but given those developments, it clearly makes it even more unsafe than it was before. The other arguments that they have is that the service cuts are illegal. Now, I'm not sure whether the arbitrator can actually rule on that one way or another, but your union should have long ago sued the MTA because they are in violation of New York state law. They're in violation of federal law. You cannot push through service cuts without public hearings. And you'll know that because every fare increase, they have public hearings. Every time they talk about layoffs, they have public hearings. Any kind of major service change or budget cut or job cut, they need to have public hearings about, and they didn't do it. And your union leadership comes out with a newspaper article a little while back quoting Zachary Archidiakono, our train operator chair, saying that it's illegal. And it's, like I said, it's great that Zachary put that information out there. It would have been great to know that 10 months ago, 11 months ago, 12 months ago, when our members were being exposed to higher rates of COVID and were being jerked all over the system arbitrarily because of management using a crisis to their advantage. And this union hasn't done anything to defend our members' health and safety for a long period of time. And that is really what has paved the way for all of these attacks. When you show weakness to people who don't even think we're human, to people who are racist, sexist, just thoughtless clods of employers who've never worked our job, who have no idea what we go through, and who fundamentally don't care about our lives, and they just proved it. And yet there is no fight back from your union, and that's what makes members so angry. Eric, and his minions like Jesse Ogweta, they want to come out here and say that there was nothing they could do. When you agreed to the C-line pick, let's remember what they're agreeing to. They're agreeing to a pre-packaged pick. They're agreeing to a pick where members are forced to keep certain RDOs and a certain tour, and are forced to pick whatever jobs management decides they want to have available. And that pick provided job cuts, and it showed nothing but weakness in the face of the attacks that we faced. And there was no credible threat to make management do anything but continue to attack us. So to our surprise, that the next time it's 3 times the job cuts. And members need to think about, what does that mean for the next pick? A lot of members are asking about the next pick. When is the next pick? I cannot tell you. Nobody can tell you, because there is no work program proposed by management for the summer pick. The summer pick would ordinarily have gone into effect in May. It's supposed to be May and November. Those are just traditions. That's not in the contract. What's in the contract is that we have to have 2 picks a year. That's all that's in the contract. It doesn't say when we have to have those picks. And that's why union leadership is so important. That's why it matters. If your leaders know how to fight, if your leaders know how to make the MTA fear us, if your leaders know how to organize, struggle, and mobilize members to defend themselves, if your leaders know how to make political appeals to other workers, to other people in the same conditions, essential workers who've been treated like shit in this pandemic, who've experienced the same horrors of watching their co-workers' dead bodies be walked over by their bosses while the machinery of their profits keeps running. We had every opportunity to be able to make common cause with other workers, but your union leadership only wants to make common cause with our boss, Andrew Cuomo. And that is the root of all of the weakness and all the problems that we see in our union. And, I know members are very demoralized in the state of the union, but remember, they are not the union. We are the union, okay? They will be gone. They will all be long gone. They'll be retired, and we'll be living with the consequences of their weakness, incompetence, and indecision in the face of the greatest crisis we've ever faced as a union. And so we need to start to redefine what it means when we think about what leadership is. Who provides leadership? Who needs to be in control of the union? And that's why it's so important that we have a democratically accountable union leadership, not after they're elected, before they're elected. So when we're talking about this next election, we got to think very seriously about what we've done wrong and what the lessons of those mistakes were. I also want to give an update now about the platform controller situation. Once again, when you show weakness to management, you face an attack on all sides. They attack in every way possible to communicate their contempt to our membership and their feeling that they can do whatever they want. Now, the platform controller situation is not just Eric Eddy's fault. It has nothing to do with him personally. It has to do with the union leadership over a long period of time, not fighting for jobs, not taking that seriously, and slowly but surely agreeing to whittling away of our pick rights and our seniority rights. And the first tip of the spear with that was the platform controller jobs. When the platform controller jobs were first established, they were negotiated as permanent jobs. They were not temporary in any way, none of them. They were permanent jobs. They had pick rights. They had enforceable pick rights. If you don't have a permanent job title, or pick job, it's very hard to enforce any kind of pick rights and meaningful pick rights. So when Jesse Ogweta says that, not Jesse Ogweta, I'm sorry, when Eric Logel's defenders say, well, they knew what they were picking when they picked those jobs, because on the job itself, on the work program, it says that those jobs can be canceled and that they are temporary. I just want to show you some of the posts, so you'll see the contempt with which the union leadership treated the members who are facing these attacks. So let me just pull up that post. So that's not it. Sorry about that. Okay, so Rapid Transit Review, which is Eric Eddy's fanboy group that only people who agree with him are allowed to be members of. That's supposed to be an informational Facebook page for all of our members, which has like 1,500 members, and it's only the people who don't ever criticize Eric Logan. So in any case, Rapid Transit Review came out with this recently, trying to prove that these were temporary jobs and that the union, that people are wrongfully blaming the union for the cuts of these jobs, right? So it says 700, 800, 900 jobs are temporary, may be canceled at any time during the pick. That's been true for quite a number of picks now. But management didn't go ahead and make these attacks, did they? As far as the jobs being temporary, like I said, it wasn't just Logel's fault. Logel, every time he signs off on a work program with these temporary jobs, he's agreeing to a lack of job security, a lack of pick rights, a lack of enforceable seniority rights for a whole bunch of members. Every time they sign off on it, they file no grievance about it. They file no PERB charges about it. They do nothing to mobilize members in the field to communicate meaningfully to management that we're not going to take this lying down. He's agreeing to it. But not just Eric, but Joe Costala's agreed to it when he was the VP. And I'm not really sure exactly how far it goes back, because Joe wasn't VP for very long. It could have even been under Kia that these jobs were made temporary. But when they mock our members and say, ha ha ha, don't they read the work program? Is that the response that you want from a union leadership? Is that the response that you want to basically cover their ass and say, well, these people should have known? And then Eric, in the middle of the executive board meeting, basically says that it's not his job to inform members that these changes are about to happen. And, I'll let the members judge for yourself. Like, is that the kind of leadership you want that's not even going to let you know, heads up, by the way, these work changes may be coming. And, this is what we're going to do about it. This is how we're going to negotiate on your behalf. Nothing. So in any case, just to give you an update on the platform controller situation, there are some developments related to this job, and I wanted to make sure that people were aware of it. First of all, this flyer that I'm going to share my screen again so you can see that. Okay. That's not it. Sorry. Here it is. Okay, so this is how platform controllers were made aware that there was any kind of change to the platform control program. Attention all platform controllers. Due to the uncertainty at this time, all PCs are advised to contact the IVR on Saturday and Sunday night for your assignments. Now, this is an unsigned memo put up in their work location. Come to find out that at Grand Central, the superintendent that's supposedly in charge just bailed and took an assignment in the B division. So in any case, since then, there's been a lot of pressure on the union leadership to do something about this, because they were planning on implementing these changes on Monday. At this time, there will not be any changes to the platform control program until at least the following Monday, which is the 8th. Okay, there'll be no changes at all in the A or the B division until not this Monday, but next Monday. On next Monday, the temporary plan is to have the platform controllers from the A report to Whitehall Street, South Ferry. Once again, the platform controllers in the A division will all report to Whitehall Street, South Ferry. Originally, Jesse Argueta put out a post saying that the A division would be at Grand Central. That can't happen because there's not enough space for social distancing at Grand Central. So that's why the change has been made that all A division platform controllers will be reporting to Whitehall Street, South Ferry until further notice. and at their same reporting time and their same tour. As far as the B division is concerned, the B division will be reporting to Queens Plaza. Again, once again, all B division platform controllers will be reporting to Queens Plaza in the B division. And once again, those changes will take effect not this Monday, but next Monday, March 8th. So that's where things lie right now. But there are plans to try to move those platform controllers around, and it's still an ongoing negotiation between management and the union related to what will happen with those members. And also another thing that's so devastating about the work program language is that there's no provision in the work program language to protect the 40 positions that are restricted employees from being reassigned to other work locations at other times. There's also no language to prevent them from being reassigned to different tours or having their RDOs changed. So, we're in a bad situation, and the weakness of the leadership has only encouraged these attacks. We need to come up with a much better strategy of a credible threat to fight back. So in any case, I'll be bringing updates on that as soon as I have more updates about it. But it's a really bad situation. I was a platform controller myself. It's it's a stressful job. People don't think that it is, but there is really no barrier between you and the riding public. In an era of COVID, it's extremely dangerous in terms of exposure, and even before COVID, in terms of air quality. The conditions that they face in terms of the dosage of all the stuff that's in the air is terrible. And a lot of these platform controllers were doing this without masks for a long, long time. And God knows the health risks that we all faced. So I wish I had better answers for you, but I just want to make sure that people have the updates that there will be no changes happening on Monday. The earliest any changes will happen will be the following Monday. And for right now, the A and B will be centralized at 2 locations, Whitehall Street, South Ferry for the A, and Queens Plaza for the B. So now I want to turn to the executive board meeting. I don't like to have to provide updates on personal disagreements or anybody's psychodrama. I just don't have time for it. Like having to stroke somebody's ego and walk on eggshells to prevent them from going unhinged in a sociopathic rage is not really something I consider a fun way to spend my time. And I certainly don't expect to have to do that in the highest decision-making body of our union. But unfortunately, I have to tell you that we do. And I had all these issues that I'm raising with you now. I wanted to raise with Eric Logel, the VP, and I got all of the other executive board members from RTO together so that we could all talk to him at once. And so in any case, Eric was hostile and nasty about it and said, that we should wait for him to be ready to speak with us. All along, him and John Chiarello are having this conversation with me right next to them. Basically, the subject of their conversation was Chiarello telling Logel that anything you need, Eric, I want to help you in RTO, because after all, I know that you have these disloyal and destructive people in RTO, and I want to be there to help you. And so it's all of this kind of ass-kissing. And so in any case, Chiarello then talks about old accusations from 2017 about me supposedly snitching track workers out to management, which are lies, which I informed the track crews affected to write statements about unsafe conditions before I ever went to anyone to expose these unsafe conditions. And unsafe conditions, by the way, were unsecured pieces of wood and track ties and plates from trains and all sorts of debris that was not tied down to elevated structures in the Bronx, Queens, and other places. And these are conditions that could kill one of our train operators who at night has to walk around the train, to try to investigate, brakes emergency or whatever it is. It could kill track workers. It could, and it did, nearly killed pedestrians when these unsecured pieces of debris fell to the roadbed, crashed through people's windshields, and nearly killed pedestrians. And I don't know if you've seen when Andy Byford was putting up the baskets to catch some of this debris and went out on a full system inspection to find out where these problem areas were. They only did that because they were exposed in the media. But John Chiarello had a chance to do something about that and didn't lift a finger because he's a boss lover and he wants to collaborate with management and keep things quiet. And fundamentally doesn't care about the safety of other workers in other departments or the riding public. And this is the kind of leadership we have. So Chiarello was selling his lies about me running to Andy Byford, and I told him, by the way, I'm right next to you. Like, didn't you know I was right here? And so I told him he was a coward, that he wouldn't bring these to my face, bring these accusations to my face, that he chooses to run to the track division meeting and to other officers to spread conspiracy theories and lies that he has no proof for. So in any case, sorry to sidetrack on that nonsense, but Eric then eventually decides to grace us with his presence and answer questions that we had. So I brought the flyer that you see here about the platform controllers, and I asked him why the union wasn't out in the field to let members know what was potentially happening, especially since Sarah Feinberg in an MTA employee town hall said there was no plans to cut any platform controller jobs, that there was no plans to end the program. Now, obviously, that was a flat-out lie. But my question to Eric was, what was the union doing to prepare members for what's going on, and what were they doing to take action on these ridiculous suggestions that they could, by next week, change people's assignments and only notify them when an unofficial notice put up in their work location. And his response was that it's not his responsibility to let members know that they all knew when they picked the job, and that members had been out, his officers had been out in the field. So I'll ask any of you platform controllers in either division, have you seen a union officer out there except after Friday to tell you anything about what's been going on? I know Dominic Culp and others have been out in the field since, but before that, did you see any union officers in the field? We really want to know what you have to say about this. Text me if you want to call in on this live stream, because we'd love to hear from you. But so in any case, things start to escalate because Eric is talking down to me and starts to say that that this is all political, that I'm not really concerned about the members, and then he goes into personal attacks and says that I'm a workers' compensation fraud. So here you have the highest elected officer, a union officer, in the union hall, in the room that the executive board meeting is being held in, saying that another union officer is committing a felony, defrauding the MTA through workers' compensation fraud, which he knows is a lie, because he has access to all my medical records as the highest elected officer in the department. So he knows that those are lies. He knows that the Workers' Compensation Board ruled in my favor, that I have all the medical evidence about my injuries, and that the MTA was forced to pay me every dime they tried not to pay me. So this is conduct unbecoming a union officer right there. But then it gets worse, because when I brought up the fact that at this arbitration hearing, I don't know if you guys seen, but he put out this notice talking about how great their defense was of us in the arbitration hearing. And unfortunately for Eric, he lets loose that the people, he says exactly who was in the meeting. And so I brought up the fact that, well, let me just read you his post, okay? It says, the F-line pick to be reduced in arbitration. As many of you know, yesterday morning, the union faced off with the New York City Transit and arbitration hearing regarding the line pick and the possible delay of a summer general pick. As we always do, we presented a strong case that was well prepared and researched. Joining me at the hearing was our legal counsel. Okay, let's remember our legal counsel, Arthur Schwartz, Dennis Engel, both white men. Then we have Division Chairman Zachary Archidiaka, another white man. Staff Representative Deidre Brunson, a white woman. Pick expert Liaz Hagler, a white man. And President Tony Utami. So I just brought up the fact that it's a problem for a department that has such diversity and has overwhelmingly Black and Latino and immigrant membership, to have the only representation at that hearing be white men and white women. I'm a white man. I don't think that that's okay. I'm an anti-racist. I don't think it's okay. And I don't think it's representative of our department. And the reason why I brought it up was because this is what you get when you have a thin-skinned, petty bureaucrat who wants to excommunicate elected officers from actually doing their job. You know, he banned Raul Lugo from any of these hearings. He banned Dominic Culp from any of these hearings. He banned Chris Drummond from any of these hearings. Now, you may say, well, how do you know that? I know that by the results. I know they weren't there. I know that Michelle Figueroa, a person of color, your tower chair, she was not there. And these were all people with experience in these kind of matters. And these are people who you elected to represent you. And the fact that they're not there is a problem. So Eric, in response to all of this, goes into an unhinged sociopathic rage and starts screaming a blue streak of cursing and epithets towards me, and has to be dragged out of the room. He has to be dragged out of the room by his own union officers, Earl Phillips and Wilmwood Richard, who were there and seen everything that happened. And Earl Phillips came back afterwards and apologized for Eric and said that he told Eric that he was so disappointed in him and that this is not how a union VP should act. Now, like I said, I'm really tired of having to deal with a man-child, immature, incompetent vice president and his tantrums and outbursts. It really is sad, it's pathetic that we have to even talk about this. This is not fun. It's not something that I like to do. But the bottom line is that this person is unfit to hold union office, and he has been the entire time. You wonder why management is getting away with what they're getting away with. Just look at who represents us, who is the leading representative of this department, and who will not let anyone else who might have a different approach, might have a different strategy, might have a different way to make arguments, even in the room, even despite the fact that those people have been voted for, just like he was, by the union membership. And it's a slap in the face to our members to have a department run this way. So, I mean, the bottom line is that he just cannot continue in this position. And we're going to be, investigating every possible way to see him removed. And quite frankly, he should have been removed long ago. So, in any case, I want to kind of turn away from this sideshow because there are other things that need to be talked about. I wanted to bring up the dependent medical care verification process that's been going on. At the last union executive board meeting last month in January, Tony Utano was told about the flaming hoops of fire that many of our members have had to go through in order to provide their dependent verification, when they've already provided a lot of this verification to the MTA, and the MTA knows that these dependents are verifiable and are entitled to health coverage from the MTA. But they hired this Wall Street hedge fund, a bunch of hedge fund managers, Ernst & Young, to basically engage in a fishing expedition to see how many people they kick off of our dependent healthcare coverage, all based, no doubt, on their racist assumptions about transit workers having all these, illegitimate dependents. And, it taps into all the racist tropes that they constantly put forward about a largely white workforce. So in any case, Eric Logel came to the last conductors meeting. He had promised that there would be an affidavit process coming out. They've worked out all the details with management, and that basically all members would have to do is fill out an affidavit, have it notarized, and send it in, self-certifying that their dependents are legitimate and that they've already submitted the information to the MTA. The reason why this change happened was because Michael Enrique and myself made an issue out of it because it's a third party having access to your personal, financial, and other records that they have no right legally to have any access to at all. And the MTA has been told this repeatedly. In 2011, they tried to do this, and they were told by a judge, no, you can't do this. No, a third party can't have access to these records. You have to come up with an affidavit process, and that's exactly what they did. So the reason why I bring this up is because it's come to my attention from many members in RTO and other departments that as many as 70 union members have been contacted by the FBI, by the Department of Labor, and by MTA New York City Transit, saying that someone was engaging in unemployment insurance fraud in their name, and asking them, if they knew anything about it and all that kind of stuff. Now, the reason why I bring this up is that the dates when they began to be contacted about this was in late November. I don't know if you remember, but the deadline for the Ernst & Young website where you could expedite, getting all your dependent verification information, that website, the deadline was November 27th. So it's a little funny that nothing else had changed. But all of a sudden, when Ernst & Young is doing this online on a website that nobody really knows if it's secure, if it was hacked, it makes it a little suspicious that that's what may have happened to these members. And these members may have been victims of fraud because the union did not stop management from doing something that they had to know was illegal. And it also raises concerns about what has happened with all the information that we've given Ernst & Young. Members who have submitted that information either by mail or online. What has happened with that data now that they supposedly have gone to an affidavit process? I say supposedly because I don't know if you've heard, but we haven't seen no affidavit put out into the field. It's not on TENS. The union hasn't made any announcement about it. So a lot of this stuff is still up in the air. So I'm going to be sending an email to Tony Gaetano and other officers early next week, giving them the details on these complaints and on these concerns, and I'll get back to people about what the response will be. Also, just wanted to let you know there's going to be a new COVID-19 vaccine location opening up soon. They've opened up one at 130 Livingston Street. There's going to be another one at Grand Central Terminal shortly. I know that I believe Metro North is already getting vaccinations at Grand Central Terminal, but I know that there are plans for another location to be opened up at Grand Central Terminal. Now, if you'll remember from my last live stream, it may have been the last one or the one before, when Tony Gaetano first talked about on-site COVID-19 vaccination sites, the plan was 5 locations in multiple boroughs. And the locations were like 207 Yard, East New York Depot, a location in Jamaica, and the 2 other ones that they have opened or will be opening shortly. So this is not at all what was promised, and it's not at all acceptable, especially given the runaround many of our members have had to get these vaccines in the first place. From what I can tell, when they are open at 1:30, it is being handled expeditiously and professionally. The problem is it's only open certain hours. I believe it's open 8 to 8, and it's only open from Wednesday to Sunday. That's just not good enough for the sheer level of volume of people who want to get the vaccines. And we're going to keep the pressure on that to expand to more locations. The rollout of this vaccine distribution has been a complete and entire epic failure. And it's both Trump and his bullshit and the relatively timid goals that the Biden administration has for the rollout of this vaccine. They talk about 50 million vaccinations. There's 360 million people in the United States, and they each got to get 2 unless they're getting the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which isn't even really out yet. That's not an outstanding record of achievement on this. It's nowhere near what we need. So also just want to report that we're looking into legal assistance related to the air quality in the subways. I'm also going to be sending an email to Tony about the locations that were specifically mentioned in that NYU study, which I'll post the link for in the comments here. I mean, the horrific levels of dangerous contaminants and particles in the air. at stations like Christopher Street, for example, that were named in the study. What the hell is being done at Christopher Street for the CPA that cleans there, for the station agent that works there, for any of our train crews? What kind of independent, scientific, medical investigation is going on of the health conditions that we've faced for decades? You know, and Tony Utano, you know, cries his crocodile tears about it, but what has he done his entire career about these issues? And where is the union in taking legal action to stop the MTA from the future exposure that our members are facing every day? So we are going to be looking at legal remedy for this and political outreach to elected officials to try to put pressure on the MTA to force their hand to actually provide some independent testing and some monitoring and safety shutdowns in the places where there needs to be safety shutdowns. And you know, we'll get back to you with more information about what the progress is on all of that. So I'd like to thank everybody for your time. I don't like to stay too long on the live stream. I'm just going to check if we have any people who wanted to call in. Okay, so the conversation never ends. You can continue your comments in the comments, and feel free to reach out to me. My number is 917-678-0557. My email address is john012871@gmail.com. And I look forward to continuing this discussion. But, you know, I just want to close on, you know, what kind of leadership we need. Members should have that at the front of your mind right now. Okay, with the toll that we faced with over 140 members who worked at New York City Transit dead, tens of thousands infected, and we all know what the response was from our union leadership. And we have to be very careful about the leaders that we choose going forward. And we have to put the membership in charge of this union. And Local 100 Fightback was founded on that basis. It was founded on the basis that we need a democratically functioning united opposition, where members determine what the opposition stands for, what it fights for, what their needs are. And basically the point of the opposition is to make members' voices heard. And the point of our founding principles was hold leaders accountable, even ourselves. We don't think you should trust anybody. We don't think you should give a blank check to anyone. And we don't think anybody automatically deserves our trust. And the reason why that is, I mean, it may sound harsh, right? I can know somebody before they're elected. I can know what their character is as much as one can know, you know, from being in a crew room with them, seeing them in the fights they lead. But the power that one has when you're elected to union office is just too great. It's just too much unchecked power. And part of the reason why we need to put the membership in charge of any opposition that takes control of this union is to begin to reduce the amount of power, the amount of unchecked power that the president has and that all elected union officers have. And we need to reinstitute a fear in them that if they don't act upon our interest, if they don't implement our will, not their will, our will, that they can be removed from office. And so part of the founding principles of our coalition was to say that any officer that was chosen by open, democratically decision-making meetings of the membership would be accountable to that membership. And if any of them violated their oath to implement the will of the membership, to be their voice, to amplify their voice, that everyone who ran with them would seek to remove them from office. And that's important. It's important to have that kind of control. It's like an emergency brake on a runaway train. We desperately need that. And look around at all of the opposition candidates and judge them based on how committed they are to democratic principles now. How committed are they to tell you exactly what they intend to do? Have it all written out for you and let you vote on it and decide whether their priorities are your priorities, whether what represents what they think is good represents what's in the best interest of you as a transit worker and as a union member. So we're going to be continuing this discussion, you know, in the lead up to the next elections, but I want members to start thinking about how do we change the situation and how did we get here? Because we warned you We warned you about Eric Eddy. It's not like you weren't warned. This was a huge mistake by our union members in selecting this member to be the highest ranking officer in the RTO department of Local 100. It was a disastrously bad decision. And we also have to look at those who told us it was a good choice and a good decision, and who gave a blank check to a person they knew had personal issues and inexperience and a whole lot of baggage that was going to be a problem in a position of that much power. And they ignored all of those dangers. And they said people who raised those questions were liars. I want you to judge based on your own experience. Was that good leadership? Was that someone you should trust for advice going forward on what the future leadership of Local 100 should look like? So in any case, we'll continue the discussion soon, and I look forward to meeting and talking with members in the field, and we'll be talking real soon. Like I said, the discussion never ends. Feel free to continue your comments and talk to each other, because it's not about what I think, not about what any one member thinks. It's about developing a dialogue and a real life in this union where the members are in charge of this union. And people may think that that's kind of utopian and seems like it'll never happen. It has to happen, because if it doesn't happen, our lives are literally on the line. And just look around at the coworkers that you knew that are not here anymore, and tell me that what we're doing is working. It's not. Thank you for your time. Appreciate everything, and we'll be talking real soon. Thanks. Have a great night.